We welcome back our co-hosts from the first half hour, Mr. Bill Stubblefield, retired admiral, former Berkeley County Commission president, avid seeker of parking spaces in the metropolis of Martinsburg.
For the betterment of mankind. Yeah, for those parking
Serving
spaces.
your purpose.
Yes. Good morning, Rob. Great to be here.
Yeah, he has switched seats, but not personalities. Mr. John Gilstrap, New York Times bestselling author, former firefighter, safety engineer.
Good morning.
And seeker of truth.
Well, and it sounds like Bill beat his way into a parking space. I'm not sure exactly what that deal was.
Browbeat his way
yeah.
into a parking space. No, leave that open, Colin. Yeah, leave it open. Yeah. Also, let's welcome in our senior member of our crew, longest tenured Friday Fiver, Mr. Michael Carl, back when it was the Thursday 2.
Good morning, everybody.
Right? Remember the Thursday shows, Mike?
Yeah, but I remember, we just had the anniversary of the 9/11, and I was on this show in the other studio than this one, but here, and it was, literally, the second, attack happened while we were still on the air.
Yeah, I do remember you telling that tale there. I remember. Were you on with Jerry Mays or Hannah at the time?
Hannah.
Yeah. 24 years ago yesterday. Also, let's say good morning to Mr. Lawrence Schultz, attorney at law.
Great to be here this morning.
Via telephone, Joseph Joey Torts Ferretti. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, everyone.
Very
subdued.
subdued.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I am subdued. I'll admit that.
Yeah. Are you in Georgia, Pocahontas County, Pittsburgh? Where?
No, I am in Georgia.
All right. You are a Pitt graduate, Joe, correct?
That is correct.
How many backyard brawls have you attended over the years?
Plenty. And
That was an appropriate hesitation from a Penn State fan.
Exactly. No, I attended many of a Pitt, West Virginia game, both on the hard court and on the gridiron, and I will admit to yelling things at West Virginia fans and their teams, and being supportive of Pitt, but it's all in good fun, and I hope that it'll be another good game this weekend.
Well, Mr. Carl, how many backyard brawls have you attended?
I don't remember the number, but I've been to a lot of them.
Been to a few,
and including some in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Were you there for the famous EIEIO game?
No.
The public address announcer.
I was there.
You were there, Joe. Now that was still Pitt Stadium.
It was Pitt Stadium, and yes, the public address announcer went on and said there was a car in the parking lot had left its lights on, West Virginia plate number EIEIO. and the fans erupted. Okay, it was funny at the time and everything, but that guy did get fired.
He did get fired.
I am proud to say that for almost 40 years now I've been telling people that I went to Penn State undergrad and WVU law school so I could hate Pitt from two directions at once. Sorry, Joe.
What's the line? Under the arm?
Under the arm. Pitt. That's right. Yeah, I've got my friend John Partington. He and I typically text quite frequently during the Pitt, West Virginia games, and he began texting me earlier in the week saying, you should be embarrassed if you're happy that Pitt beats West Virginia this year. West Virginia couldn't beat Ohio. Pitt's going to kill them. And I said, just relax. Pitt has a way of pitting up things. Every time you think Pitt's going to be good, they just stop being good. And these games almost never follow what the records of the teams are. And it's also quite apropos that Rich Rodriguez in the 13-9 game gets to face Pitt once again many years later on 9/13. That's obviously when the schedules came out, that was the first thing that people began talking about. So it's kind of a neat little closing of the circle in the Rich Rod coaching career here.
Will Pat McAfee be there to cheer on missed field goals, or where are we with that?
He's the patron saint of the Pitt West Virginia rivalry from the Pitt perspective. Many West Virginia fans think McAfee was a plant that we sent to West Virginia just for the specific purpose of missing field goals at a key moment. Turns out McAfee ended up with the best career of everybody from that game, right? All right, we go for issue number 1, and for that, Mr. Ferretti.
Well, I'm not going to shy away from the news of the week, but I'm going to try to do this, Rob, in a constructive way. I sense there's a real unease about the country with this violence that occurred in Utah a couple of days ago. And, you look at the backdrop, and we got a polarizing figure in the White House. We have economic shocks, inflation, developing feeling that the economy is increasingly unstable. We've had a presidential candidate shot at and injured by a bullet. We've had threats against the president and Congress. We've had riots in the streets directed at federal buildings and seats of government. We've had National Guard in the streets encountering the general public in threatening ways. Now, you may think I'm referring to today, but I'm actually describing the 1970s. Gerald Ford was shot at twice in 17 days. A mayor in San Francisco was gunned down because he was gay. George Wallace was campaigning for the presidency, and he was shot and unfortunately was confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And we had National Guardsmen shooting college protesters at Kent State. One of the advantages of age is that you can often draw upon history and say, we've been there before. And we have. We've been here before. But it doesn't make it any less important to discuss it today. And I'm not comforted by the fact that our current Department of Homeland Security has the threat level as high. And if you recall testimony from the FBI Director Wray and current DHS people, the threats are homegrown, lone actors, and small groups planning harm to others. The Department of Homeland Security is currently tracking over 7,500 active threats against members of Congress, not to mention threats against our federal judiciary and other state and local officials. And what's interesting is that while our national homicide rate and crime rates are dropping, our national homicide rate is approaching levels that we saw in the 1960s. The suggestion is that the forces driving the political violence we see are distinct from general criminality. So there's something going on in this country that I think we have to address. So my question this morning to the panel is what to do about this. And I want to try to be constructive because I know it's too easy to fall into the trap of trying to blame one side or the other for what we're experiencing. Here's my thoughts, and you guys can expound on these or reject them or say they're pie in the sky, or maybe you have ideas of your own. But here's what I'd like to see happening as we go forward. Number one, we have to demand Congress put an end to gerrymandering. With computers and now AI, gerrymandering can be done with remarkable precision. But we know it leads to extremism in the legislatures, and it's ruining our approach to governance. And it's just, we see it in West Virginia, being a one-party state now. Candidates have to worry about the attacks from the extreme right as opposed to people who are trying to work towards the middle. We also have to get money out of politics in some way. I know Citizens United is a free speech issue in terms of money and politics, but boy, it is ruining our governance, and it's creating fundraisers out of our elected officials. We have to demand more from our politicians. Okay, those who would seek to define Charlie Kirk's death as a declared war by the left wing, they have to be summarily dismissed. As should anybody who argued a couple weeks ago that the death of the Minnesota Democrat was some right-wing fanatic. These are acts of violence, and I think trying to assign blame is a fool's errand. Within 24 hours of the shooting in Butler, my congressman here in Georgia blamed the Biden crime family. Even today, we don't know the motive behind that shooter in Butler, yet he felt it necessary to come out with that comment. I think we got to get back to teaching civics in school in a way that organizes the students to have debates and to understand what civil discourse is all about. When I was on campus at Pitt, we had Timothy Leary and Cal Thomas show up for a debate. Probably most listeners don't even remember who those people are, but they were on the far right and far left wings of this political spectrum, and they had a civil debate, and we learned a lot from that discussion that night at Pitt. I think we need to do more of that. Charlie Kirk was actually, in some ways, attempting to do that himself, and that should be respected. Finally, I would recommend to folks, go out and talk to your neighbors. Go out and get some fresh air. Get away from the poison that's on social media that does nothing but inflame your passions and cause you to be angered all the time. Just go out and talk to your neighbors. You'll find out that they care really about tending to their yard or working their job or taking care of their family. And I think you'll find common ground. We got to do more of that. So I'm trying to figure out ways to get us beyond this violence and this path that we are on right now. And I'm hoping that maybe some of these ideas may come to pass. And I'm hoping other people have good ideas too to try to be constructive about this whole situation. So that's my thoughts this morning. And my question is, do you agree with these points of view, or do you think there's other ways that we can try to deal with this problem?
Good opening as always, Joe. One of the things that drove me from Facebook as a regular reader or whatever, other than the overall inanity of most of the comments, was during the first Trump administration when two of my neighbors, over the course of several months, escalated their rhetoric against each other, whether they were pro-Trump and against Trump. And it got comical to the point that these two people literally lived across the street from each other. They literally lived across the street, but were conducting a Facebook war against each other in the comments section. Just open up the door, get out of your house, and go talk to the person. Bill, I'm going to lead off with you.
Yeah, Joe, I appreciate the analogy with the 70s, but there's a marked difference between today and the 70s. We live in such silos, unlike what we saw in the 70s. Silos, we all live in our tribe with our silos. And the silos have viewed themselves as victims. They forget the role that they play in promulgating some of the unrest. They see everything as a direct affront to them. And I think that's definitely what we're seeing now, that the silos are saying we've been victimized, everybody's against us, or at least the segments against us, and we got to strike back. I was listening to Jay Johnson last night. Johnson was a director of Homeland Security in a previous administration, may well have been Obama's administration, I'm not sure. But he made some of the same things that you did. He said that if the argument that it's a family problem, we have to go back to the root of the families, that's aspirational. That will never happen. We will just continue down this road that we're going now. It's got to be leadership. And we're not seeing it from our current leaders. One way, he said, to get around it was the point that you mentioned, is get our arms around gerrymandering. We've got to do something with gerrymandering. It's literally getting out of control. It's always been an albatross around the neck, but it's getting worse and worse. Another one he did not mention, but I think would address this problem of extremes, is going to ranked choice voting. Those states that have ranked choice voting seem to come up with a more moderate slate of candidates than what we have today with extreme candidates. Social media was one that Johnson mentioned. Social media has gotten out of control, but what do you do about it? It's free speech, and the Congress has been wrestling with it. I'm not sure they've come up with any solution. But you're exactly right, Joe. We have these extremes, and the extremes are getting more aggressive toward each other. They're getting more violent toward each other. I don't see any moderation at all. We see this with Mr. Cook's assassination. And both sides are guilty. When we had the one in Minnesota, we had a similar sort of rhetoric. But it bothers me that labels are being put on the assassination, the individual doing the did the assassination before he's even caught. We don't even know who the person is, but we've already started labeling him as a certain political operative, if you will. We've got to get away from that. We got to come back and add a little bit of moderation in our rhetoric so that we are less extreme. This just keeps building and building, and I'm afraid it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
Mr. Carl.
Well, I don't have too much to say, partly or mainly because I don't engage in social media, but I'm in a sense not part of it, but I'm aware of its power, and it is a really big deal. And I'm sure there's when they finally identify the assassin in this one this most recent situation, you'll see a heavy participation in social media, and I agree that's a serious problem, but I don't know exactly what can be done about it, because it's just a manifestation of the free speech plus the progress of technology. So those are inherent things we've got to live with.
Larry Schultz.
Yes, this will be controversial and hasn't been discussed much yet, but one of the things we need to look at is a very stringent form of gun control. And by that, I don't mean nobody can have a gun. I own guns. I've been a deer hunter since I was 12 years old. I don't think there's any need for everyone to lose their guns. On the other hand, if you have a history of some kind of violent conduct in your life, we have to do a better job of making sure that the pathway for you to get your hands on a gun is very limited or non-existent. And, we often find this. Now, there are people, included among them is Charlie Kirk, who said, well, part of having a robust Second Amendment means that we're going to have a fair number of gun deaths. And that's a fair trade and a good trade for America. That's what he said. Interestingly, he said that on April 5th, 2023, some 9 days after a school in Nashville, Tennessee was shot up by someone who intruded. One of the people killed in that school shooting was a guy named Mike Hill, who is 61 years old. He's a custodian. He had 7 children. The second issue that I would raise, and it's connected to what I just said, is this whole question of empathy. And many people kind of brush over it. I looked up a dictionary definition, and it simply means the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. It's different from sympathy, which is just feeling sorry for someone that something happened. It's an ability to at least attempt to understand those feelings. Now, am I ever going to be able to understand how Charlie Kirk's family feels? No, thank God that has never happened to me, and I wouldn't presume to be able to parse that. However, I can try to care about those folks. Also, interestingly enough, Mr. Kirk said, I can't stand the word empathy. It's a made-up New Age term that does a lot of damage. Well, I think he was absolutely wrong about that. Doesn't mean he deserved to die in that horrible way. Doesn't mean that we don't need to make sure that a guy like this shooter can't get his hands on a 30-06 deer rifle and can't get to the top of a building in a public university. All of that remains to be shaken out, but there are concrete steps we can take. And Mr. Kirk was a part of the social media press for these kind of extreme ideas. And so, part of what we need to do, we can't limit what people like him say, but we can take the tools from the hands of those who would commit these kinds of crimes. I don't know where we're headed with this exactly, but I do think that until we have a person in the White House whose response to Melissa Hortman's murder in Minnesota and Charlie Kirk's murder in Utah are almost indistinguishable, we're going to have a hard time getting there, at least from the pathway of public leadership. we have to pick one. And if we're going to do one, we have to do both. If we're not going to do either, that's a different thing too. But I don't think you can just complain about this when it's your guy who gets killed.
Mr. Gilstrap.
I appreciate following a heartless non sequitur. I think when we talk about political violence, the solution is to define political violence and to know what we're talking about. Excuse me. We need to talk about what it is. It's not just people being shot. That's obvious political violence. It is tearing a MAGA hat off of somebody's head. It's burning a city because somebody many cities away got beaten up. It's telling people that they can't disagree out loud with a political orthodoxy. And if they do, then there will be either social damage in the case that, you get fired from your job, you have to take a shot, or you're going to get fired from your job. And this is where social media comes in. It is whenever we start limiting the natural rights of Americans, freedom of speech, religion, assembly, etc., for political reasons, you're going to get anger. And when you eliminate the ability for people to talk about their anger, it's a pressure cooker, and the pressure cooker blows up. We lose sight of the fact, one of the things that I'm blessed with in what I do for a living is, bad guys think they're good guys. Everybody on each side of an issue, they're the hero of their own story. And we dismiss the other side as saying that they're idiots or they haven't thought through the other side, and we just dismiss them. That's the problem. We don't take the time to listen to what the other side, where they come to their conclusions. That's the ideal part of what John Doyle and I do on Thursdays. You come to an issue from the complete different side, and even though you might not end agreeing with each other, at least you've had the opportunity to talk about it. Remember, silence is violence? That was a buzzword during the BLM years. What a ridiculous thing to say. You have to bow, you have to bend the knee. You have to bow to somebody. If you don't say exactly the right thing that I want you to say right now, then you're a racist. That is absurd. And and that is political violence. It's of a different kind. It's not actually beating somebody up. But what it's doing is putting a person in a position where the pressure cooker continues to build. If I make you do something that you don't want to do, that is assault, right? So we need to have public discourse. That is the problem. That's the problem with social media. That's the problem with gerrymandering. That's the problem with all of it across the board, is we need to have calm social discourse.
Final minute comes back to you, Joe.
Well, I agree. I mean, it's a general statement, John. You're right. But we got to be smart about how we get there. Okay. Right now, there are chatbots from Russia and China stoking all kind of anger on the internet about this individual's motive and what's behind his shooting. And all of that is disinformation. Yet we fired the unit at the FBI whose job it was to countermand and to identify and deconstruct those chatbots from foreign adversaries. We got to be smart about this. Okay, so let's attack the problem in very deliberative, very smart ways, so that we don't have a bunch of disinformation out there that is whipping people up into a frenzy. That's the way to approach this, is to be smart about it. And right now, I'm fear that we're just not down that path yet.
Thank you, Joe. As always, great leadoff. We stop for the top. Thank you, Joseph. I was willing to let you slide on the mute stuff this week, but you brought it up. So,
what would the muted Joe say?
We heard a part of that.
Yeah. Actually, you did kind of self-mute. You lost yourself.
Probably much better, John.
Hey, let's welcome back the remaining members of our Friday Five crew. That includes attorney-at-law Lawrence Schultz.
Great to be here.
Longest tenured member of our crew, Mr. Michael Carl.
Good to be here, too.
New York Times bestselling author John Gilstrap.
Yeah, it's okay to be here.
And with issue number 2, Mr.
Number
Bill
two,
Stubblefield.
Yeah. And I'm going to change my my issue, Joe. So stand by. Everybody around the table has heard this, but new for you. There's been such a backlash of emotion after the assassination of Charlie Kirk on both sides of the fence. John Gilstrap made a comment as he was closing that I think should be or could be explored even more. And part of the backlash is the curtailing of speech or curtailing of comments. The State Department, a senior official that looks at visa, has sent out word to flag anyone that has spoken on social media of Charlie Kirk, and anyone that has spoken ill, they're going to look closely should their visa be revoked. In Florida, the teachers, the word's gone out to the teachers. If anyone speaks ill of Charlie Kirk, they are subject to being fired. We have in the government, there's certain agencies that says the same thing. So there is blanket words going out that says you cannot speak ill at this time, regardless of your First Amendment rights. The black colleges have shut down for fear of this backlash. Rob, you said you heard this morning on other examples of where our First Amendment rights are being challenged because you're not allowed to speak out.
Well, there have been many firings. Matthew Dowd, a political analyst at MSNBC, was released on Thursday after his comments about Kirk, and there was a member of the Carolina Panthers who also, not a football player, but somebody in the offices, who made a comment and was dismissed. Charlie Rock, a public relations coordinator for the Panthers, alluded to Kirk in one of his comments on Instagram, and he was released. There's a few other examples as well, including Assistant Dean of Students at Middle Tennessee State. And you mentioned the elementary school teacher in Florida already, Bill. These are people who have either been fired or suspended for comments regarding Charlie Kirk that were not seen in a complimentary way.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. In each of those cases, it was a negative comment about Mr. Kirk.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So the question is, understanding there's an emotional response to this assassination. We have that all the time. This one seems to be a little more intense in its emotional feeling. But does that justify the curtailing of the First Amendment free speech right? That's a question of my colleagues.
Joe, I'm going to you on the phone first.
Well, the simple answer is no. The old adage, "Thou shalt not speak evil of the dead," is not a law. And so, thankfully, the people I think should have a right to express their views about Charlie Kirk. Now, some may find it in poor taste. Some may say the timing is not right. It's too raw of an issue to go down that path. But I think it's part of the public discourse that we have to become more comfortable with. It doesn't have to end in anger or violence. Nobody dictates that has to be the end result of any discussion regarding Charlie Kirk or elected officials in Minnesota or Paul Pelosi or anybody else. It doesn't matter. It should not have to end in violence. And I think that's where we have to get back to how to handle these matters in a way that takes us away from the anger and the vitriol. I didn't know who Home Run Karen was until this morning, and I looked it up. That parent handled that marvelously when confronted with a Karen at a baseball game. Everybody should go back and just look at that. It was a teaching moment between a father and his son. And it's hopefully a lesson the son will take with him for the rest of his life. I mean, that we have to get back to just common sense in terms of how we handle these issues. It has to be taught in the schools, and it has to be practiced throughout. And I think if we get back to the notion that it can be a learned behavior to have this political discussions without throwing fists at each other, I think we'll be better off.
Mr. Gilstrap.
All right. One of the teachers who was fired, this worked for Department of Defense schools at Fort Bragg. This is her post. He was a garbage human. I won't mourn for him 1 second. The way we've always done things done, quote, boycott companies you don't like and make sure to vote in the midterms is not enough at this point. I question whether we have elections. Excuse my language, but F the high road. I am tired of having being the bigger person. The other side destroys the world. Charlie Kirk recently said that he thought gun violence victims and mass shooter victims are a reasonable price to pay for the Second Amendment. F that guy. Ironic, isn't it? It's a longer post where she talks about how bad the government is. She works for the government, and she's an elementary school teacher at Fort Bragg, so she got fired. She's got First Amendment rights, and she was not prosecuted. But she was fired. Is that wrong? I don't know. I probably on when the body is still warm. Yeah.
Mr. Carl.
Well, unquestionably, the freedom of speech and expression needs to be protected. But what we ought to do is get involved in affirmative discussion of good things, the more and more and more, and discourage, without denying, right of expression, discourage all the negative promotions and talk that we hear. That ought to be discouraged as a discretionary thing, not a barring of the First Amendment right of expression generally, but the substance of what we talk about ought to be positive, and that needs to be encouraged and very much as it can be.
Let me kind of build upon. I'm sorry, before Larry, you made a good point there, John Gilstrap. Does that teacher have the right to, if they sued for the job back, would they be able to get their job back because of First Amendment rights?
But she serves at the pleasure. I don't know. That's a legal thing. She was not prosecuted, right? The First Amendment says that the government shall make no law that infringes your right to say whatever you want. There is no law that says she can't do that. That doesn't mean there's not consequences to what you say.
Larry?
Yeah, Utah Senator Mike Lee, after the Melissa Hortman and her husband, a state senator from Minnesota, was murdered, tweeted this. This is what happens when Marxists get upset. So, under the theory that he's a government employee too, how come we didn't fire him? That's ridiculous. That is an unbelievably callous thing for him to have said.
Because he gets a chance to be fired. But you can't fire an elected. If we got to choose, if we got to fire elected officials when they said stupid things, that would be great.
And
that would be wonderful.
This school teacher at Fort Bragg also has civil service protections, I'm quite sure. And so, to answer Bill's question, I think at the very least there will be a great deal of legal research done about whether they can fire her for this politically insensitive remark on public media. But this guy is a senator from, of all places, Utah. And there it is, putting it right up there.
See, Larry, you try to talk in general terms. It's not left versus right. It's not like, okay, he did it, so therefore they did it too.
So don't tell me only one story about a federal employee doing this.
We've only got 15 minutes, Larry. This is the one I pulled up.
Well, I'm pulling the other one up. It's a balanced show.
The discussion is about Charlie Kirk. You're not going to see a lot of right-wing people getting fired over the Charlie Kirk thing, Larry. It just isn't the way it works. If you want to talk about the other one, you talk about the other one. But that's not what the topic is.
But
try to stay on topic.
No, this same dynamic works both ways, only instead of a school teacher at Fort Bragg, we're talking about a U.S. senator. So that's the leadership that's leading to this on both sides. And if we don't address it on both sides, it's just going to continue.
Your Honor, could you remind
Bill,
what we're actually talking about?
Well, you don't get to ask the judge when you're playing the judge yourself.
Yeah, going back to the basic premise, we are riding on a wave of emotion, raw emotion right now. segments of the federal government are trying to use this as an opportunity to curtail free speech. Most of us agree, I believe, that free speech is something that we hold near and dear in the Constitution. Is the federal government reacting correctly on this? Are they correct in trying to curtail free speech? I don't really know the answer. I think we're entering new territory. We've been entering new territory for the last quite a while. It's Supreme Court, if they ever decided to do something, is going to have a field day in sorting through some of these legal issues.
All right. He is in the Badger chair, and I'd say he's ably filling the Badger chair with Badger-like behavior. Mr. John Gilstrap with issue number 3.
All right, let's keep it hot. Yesterday,
I don't think you have a choice.
Yesterday, in a discussion with John Doyle, we were talking about Ukraine, and he accused me of sounding like Neville Chamberlain, and that hurt. So I called my best expert on all things international relations with a focus on Russia. So I said to him, all right, here's what I'm going to do tomorrow. Tell me if I'm going to get too far out over my skis. I'm going to posit that no country can win a war only on materiel, that there have to be boots on the ground, so that no matter how much equipment, no matter how many explosives and rockets we give to Ukraine, Ukraine cannot beat Russia. Am I right? And he said, absolutely. And then he gave me lots of historical precedents on that. And I said, so, therefore, Zelensky's only solution is to surrender. And he said, absolutely not. I said, oh, well, crap. So what is...
That road looked good for a while.
It did. So I said, so what is the solution? So, well, we have to keep supplying him material to keep the fight going. And I said, well, Zelensky can't win. And he said, well, neither can Putin. I said, Zelensky will run out of people. And he said, well, so will Putin. He's already opened the prisons. He's already brought in North Koreans. He's got Chinese working for him. And Zelensky is going to keep pushing. According to my buddy, what we have to do is to keep that war going. It will be a decade-long stalemate. And the reason we do this is so that we keep Putin busy and we drain his resources while we're choking him economically, and we don't let him get the win. Because if he gets the win, he's going to feel empowered then to move toward the NATO countries. So what we're going to do is let Ukraine bleed to death, and we're going to fund that, which seems kind of reprehensible to me for political reasons. And then I said, how's this for a good closing line, right? Because I want to leave with a punch.
You're a writer.
And I said, how's this for a good closing line? Why is Ukraine important now when the previous administration was willing to give Zelensky a ride home and just give it away? And he said, that's a really good question. I think the difference is because now there's a war and we can't let Putin win it. So that's my question to the panel is, after I've clarified what I guess we have to do, is to just let Zelensky bleed his country dry. What do you all think of that as the option for Ukraine?
I'm going to the military members first, April.
That was clarification, was it, John?
Yeah, that was clarification. It's depressing as hell, but that's clarification.
Okay. Well, we have an analogy very recent. That's Afghanistan. Russia kept putting troops after troops in Afghanistan. They had a elongated war. They finally gave up and said, we cannot win this. It was more terrain as opposed to anything else. In Ukraine, it happens to be the drones. The drones, much to my surprise, lead the world in sophistication of drones, and they're using it to the maximum. One of your embedded question was, why should we continue to support Ukraine? I think we have a humanitarian responsibility. I've had the privilege of traveling in Ukraine. There are few countries that I've been in that the people have been friendlier, nicer, more engaged. It's a wonderful, wonderful people. do we just pull back and let them be destroyed as a society? Let them be destroyed for what they fought so hard for? Just to abandon them? If you're an isolationist, if you have America first, to hell with the rest of the world, sure, you can do that. I don't see that we can do that. I think we have a responsibility. I hate to see them just bleed them dry. That means a very slow, agonizing end. I don't know which way it's going to be. It's going to be the Afghanistan end. Is it going to be another sort of end where Russia prevails? I don't know. But the fact that you just let them bleed to death slowly, that individual that takes that choice will never receive my vote.
Mr. Carl.
Well, I believe that we ought to support Ukraine and do it as thoroughly as necessary to defeat Russia, and we need to give Ukraine whatever military support will achieve that goal that stops Russia and pushes them back and prevents the invasion and takeover of any part of what's recognized as Ukraine at all, and to stop. But that can be done. I mean, that's not unrealistic, but it takes more than we're doing now.
You and I agree on this particular situation, Mr. Carl. Mr. Ferretti.
The major advantage that Ukraine has is that they don't have to win the war. They just have not to lose. That's the advantage Ukraine has. They don't have to conquer Russia. They just have not to lose. And that is an easier side to support. And so I think that I'm dismayed. I know it's another criticism from Ferretti about the Trump administration. I'm just dismayed at the dithering and the feckless way we are handling this Ukraine situation. I mean, does the president think we're stupid to suggest that 17 drones flying over Poland may have been a mistake? I mean, we had NATO jets scrambled and Poland's armed services on high alert. This is getting close to a real dangerous moment. Somebody has to put a stop to Putin because he's clearly adventuresome here beyond even Ukraine. And, the president keeps talking about, well, we can't risk World War III. The fact that he's sitting on his hands right now is risking World War III because Putin has shown himself to not only threaten Poland, but he's threatened Finland now. So I think somebody had better stand up to the bully and put him back in his place. And you do that by arming and supporting Ukraine and showing Putin that he can't win, that Ukraine is not going to lose this war. And if you show him that, he'll strike a deal, he'll take some territory, and he'll go home. He's done that before, and we're going to have to get to the point where he does it again.
John, you mentioned the Neville Chamberlain comment affected you. Why?
Well, in part because history has not judged him well, because that means appeasement, and I don't think it's appeasement. That's not how I look at this. I look at this as playing the hand you're dealt, and I didn't realize until talking with his buddy, who tells me stuff he probably shouldn't, that there is no card to play. There is no way, and as what's been represented here was represented to me as not possible, that Putin will not give up because he can't. He's so deeply into this now with his people that he will bleed his country dry. He doesn't care. Russia, think about Russia's history. He doesn't care if his people starve. It just has never been a problem with Russia. They don't care about throwing millions of people into war. They've done it for centuries.
Excuse me, John. Afghanistan was different. There was an internal rebellion against the leadership.
But that was the Soviet Union. That was different. That was that was the Soviet Union. So this is Putin's government. So this is the sword. Either Putin's going to die or be removed from power, or this war keeps going. So what I'm saying is that yes, my opinion has changed. That we have to fund and arm or let Ukraine buy, however it's going to do. We have to keep that war going so that Putin is distracted and is not going to turn to other places. But the price of that is a lot of Ukrainian bodies. I don't care about the Russian bodies. It's a lot of Ukrainian bodies, and a lot of it's just very sad that this is where it's come to. And there's nothing, and he is no Trump fan. There's nothing that Trump can do. There's nothing that NATO can do. There's nothing that anybody can do other than to keep Putin busy on the Ukrainian border.
One, I'd like to welcome you to the club.
Yeah,
It's been a while.
yeah. But it's a sad club.
You and I have gone back and forth on this on a couple of occasions. Did we go to Larry yet?
No.
Oh, okay, because we kind of went out of order there a little bit. But yeah, go ahead, Larry.
I was just going to say, someone said something the other day that kind of stuck in my head about this general topic, and that is that America first can very quickly become America alone, which will mean America last. And we don't need to go there, because if he takes over Ukraine, he's not going to stop. We know this about Vladimir Putin. He'll wait a little while until he grows up a new generation of people he can force to go to war with Poland. But before long, it will be that next thing. And if we continue the process of appeasing him at every turn, then we're going to end up very much regretting it. Having said all that, having disagreed quite heartily with your prior opinion, I agree quite heartily with this one.
Very nice. Yeah,
and I don't think Poland has to worry. I think Lithuania would have to worry.
I agree. I think that a lot of those.
Sooner or later, I wouldn't want to be Polish. Let me just put it that way. Lithuania might be first.
Yeah, the stated goal is to put the Soviet Union, put the band back together, and this is a big step in that equation. Will you do anything to stop me from putting the band back together? And he's getting a lot more. Remember when this started? This was supposed to be over in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't buy that then, because when the Soviet Union was it, the Ukrainians were always their fiercest fighters.
Let me go back.
Well, just
what-
recently it was going to be over in one day.
Yeah. Let me
But
go
that
back
was
to
our
something Mike Carl said earlier that I agree with. A lot of the responsibility lies on Biden for his very mild response. And that
Well,
he
and,
showed that.
and Obama, when Putin took Crimea, it was
agreed.
total Neville Chamberlain-esque. Biden, Gilstrap,
Hey,
Obama,
hey,
all in the same room, divvying up the world.
That's political violence right there, buddy.
You cannot tell them apart, Rob.
Schultz and Mike Carl on the clock next. The Friday Five continues for its final segments here with Joe Ferretti via telephone. Joe, welcome back.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that better?
That's more enthusiasm.
New York Times bestselling author John Gilstrap.
Good morning.
Longest tenured member of our crew, Michael Carl.
Good morning.
The Admiral Bill Stubblefield.
Good morning, Rob.
And with issue number 4, attorney at law Larry Schultz.
Thank you. The Bureau of Labor Statistics revised job totals down by 911,000 for the 12 months ending in March 2025, suggesting that our economy is well on its way to, or already in, a recession. What remedies do you believe the Trump administration should employ to minimize the coming economic pain for working families?
This is assuming you agree with Larry's assertion that there is economic pain coming and a recession, Mr. Gilstrap.
Well, first of all, it explains why the Bureau of Labor Statistics, people are being fired, right? Because being off by 1 million is a lot. And it also shows the previous administration was not as healthy as it was purported to be. I'm not an economist. I think the best way to handle a recession is to buy a lot of books and to hunker down and to read.
Shameless.
It's the way to ease the pain. The bottom line to this, Larry, is I don't know. I don't understand the mechanics of recessions and how they work. So I yield to those who do.
Mr. Stubblefield, you immediately reacted to Mr. Gilstrap's first sentence.
Yes, I was. It's a revision does not mean they were wrong.
It means it's abject lie, Bill.
Come on, Larry. He's baiting me. I know that.
Well, I know, but it's good that he decided not to comment at all.
That's right, yeah. No, the way the Bureau of Statistics works, they give out a preliminary indicator based upon the limited data. And over the weeks after that, they get more and more data. So after the quarter, they revise it. Then after a year, they revise it again. That does not mean that the first indicator was first announcement was an error. It just means it's been revised with more data. I don't really know what this is going to mean for recession. I do think we're going to see more of an inflation. For the first time, for the first time in several weeks, we're over the 3% inflation, and that has not taken into account either food or energy, I think. Energy may be put in the down. Food costs are going to go up. The reason we've not seen more of an increase in prices at the store, the warehouses as well as the grocery store, is that a lot of the stores have bought ahead. In the weeks ahead, I think the tariffs are going to become more of a factor. We're going to see it more and more. I think inflation will be going up. How that relates to recession, I'm going to ask Phil McCoy to address that.
All right, Mr. Carl.
Well, despite these errors and corrections and adjustments of data of past activity and activity levels, I'm not supporting Trump's military actions that we just talked about quite a bit, but the stock market is the most active reflector of the way the economy is going, and it's going up. And I think Trump needs to continue his agenda. The tax cuts were great. We need to continue the agenda, and I have a lot of confidence in his understanding of not just the domestic economy, but the role of the United States in the world economy, and so I'm confident that if he continues to pursue his policies, that we will see less inflation, we'll see growth, and we'll see the stock market continue to boom.
Phil McCoy, who is a certified financial planner, disagrees with you. Mike, he says the stock market is not an indicator of the economy. The stock market is something that looks forward, say, 6 months from now, not a representation of the current economic conditions.
It is when you agree to pay more, you think that stock's going to be worth more in the future. But the if things were as bad as the suggestion has been from the earlier comments, the stock market would be plummeting.
Let me just say that Phil is a paid advertiser, so I must side with him in this situation because you do not advertise.
Okay, well,
so Phil, once again,
that's a free enterprise system.
Yes, it is.
That just confirms that I'm right.
It's funny they use the word free enterprise system for that.
If it projects out 6 months, though, isn't that projecting that the economy will be good 6 months from now?
But the stock market reacts on certain things, and one of which is interest rates, which stock markets love interest rate cuts. Interest rate cuts happen in bad economic environments. So the market is not reacting to a good economy, it is reacting to lower interest rates. This is the theory I'm explaining. I'm not telling you which side. Actually, I did. I side on the side of the paid advertiser, Phil McCoy from Ameriprise Financial and the various group of financial advisors. All right, Mr. Ferretti.
Shameless.
It's your turn.
Yeah. Look, to answer Larry's question, I think that this whole regime of tariffs we have to reverse course. When a vast majority of economists, when the Wall Street Journal all call the tariffs pure folly and upsetting to the economy on the whole, I tend to believe them. And we got a situation now where stagflation is the real risk, where you have rising prices in the face of growing unemployment. That's a double whammy that fortunately does not occur all too often, but it is a risk now because we do have prices going up, Inflation rates are still at an uncomfortable level, and we have clear signs that hiring is slowing. And now, if you look at some of the data, personal debt is going up. It's more, buy now, pay later. Credit card accounts going up. It's a concern nationally, and I think we would go a long way towards solving some problems if we could get off the president's idea of using tariffs for any number of reasons, including international politics, and get back to just what is really well settled economic principles.
Can I ask a question here?
Sure.
With tariffs, let's assume, Larry, that the president's numbers are right, and we have brought in, pick a number, $200 billion. I don't know what the number, but we've got brought in $200 billion in tariff revenue. Where does it go?
United States Treasury.
And then
It's
what?
a tax increase.
It comes in and then it sits in the Treasury. Then what happens? Does it go to the general fund? How do we spend it?
It reduce the budget for one thing, reduce the deficit for one thing.
Okay.
And we're still
So
yet
in
to be
theory,
seen-
in theory, we then take that money and then pay down the debt, or
We pay bills. We don't pay down our debt at all.
we pay bills. Okay.
No.
Pay the interest on the debt.
and it still remains to be seen whether Trump will break his own 4-year deficit record,
So
regardless of tariffs.
tariffs are probably the most misunderstood thing that we do in this country from a purpose of taxation. There's a lot of people in America who cheer on tariffs. I've had conversations with many people who have said, well, they tariff us. It's only right we tariff them the same amount back, which is a misunderstanding of where the money's coming from. When we place a tariff on a good coming into this country, that country is not paying that increased price. You as a consumer are paying the increased price. It's a tax on you.
It's a sales tax.
Yes,
basically.
Basically,
Yes.
it is. So when you're cheering on tariff income, you're cheering on an increased sales tax. So if you're against the 1% safety tax in Berkeley County, you should not be for higher tariffs on imported products. You're canceling yourself out. It's an increased
And
sales tax.
I don't know how many coffee drinkers we have here, but check out the per pound price of coffee now.
And that was not an economic tariff. That was a political tariff.
No question.
But
Absolutely.
the flip side of this, as I understand it, is I think it was India had 100% tariff on Harley-Davidson motorcycles. So Harley-Davidson built a motorcycle plant in India, which means that all of the revenue is we're not getting the benefit of the taxes of that revenue. So what they did was they forced Harley-Davidson to go there, and we lost that. So, okay. So isn't it fair then to reciprocate so that whatever product in India they have to build here?
The BMW manufacturing company in South Carolina is the exact opposite of what you're saying, John.
In
the States, they moved a BMW manufacturing plant to South Carolina, and so all the revenue stays
as a result of tariffs?
No, that was not a result of tariffs. That was just a result of economics.
Okay.
All right. So, but and some people feel, in regards to a sales tax, that at least you have the choice, right? Versus an income tax, which is taken out of your check and you have no choice. You never see that money. At least with a sales tax, you could say, well, I'm not going to buy that, therefore I won't pay that tax.
I don't have much choice on coffee. Sorry.
It comes back to you for the final thought, Larry.
Yeah, I believe that we're heading into some pretty uncertain times, in part driven by this tariff uncertainty that has affected various parts of the whole world. Just talking to people, they're not feeling a decline in prices that is significant enough to take away the anxiety they're feeling about other parts of the economy, like whether they're going to have a job a year from now. Of course, it doesn't matter how much coffee you can buy if you don't have $2, right? Because, then you're going to have to try to figure out how to get over needing coffee because you're not going to have any. But people don't want to get in that spot. I believe that we are headed for some pretty rough economic times. Who knows whether it will be the same as George Bush's last recession, but I think there's a bit of pain on the horizon.
Issue number 5, Mr. Michael Carl.
Okay. What are the broader political implications of the apparent illegality of Biden's staff's last-minute auto pen pardons?
Bill Stubblefield, you groaned the loudest. You go first.
I don't know. I know of none, Mike. I cannot answer that question because I don't know of any broad implications.
What broad implications do you suggest, Mike?
Well, the fact that it implies if that happened, what else happened while Biden was president for 4 years? How much of what took place was not the result of his,
his staff being the actual president is what you're saying.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying would be is the important implication of that particular last minute scramble with the auto pen.
Let's don't just grow a fence around Biden. We've had and admittedly, we don't know how active Biden was. We can, both sides of the political divide, paint a different picture. We also had with Ronald Reagan, his last few months, he had dementia setting in, and he was protected by his staff as well, Mike. So it was not just the Biden. We'd like to have a mechanism that if someone starts slipping down the path of dementia, someone steps in and removes them from office. That's not the process. That's not the way our system works. So I'd say you cannot just grow a fence around Biden. You have to apply to other presidents as well.
Well, Biden was the last president, and that's far more relevant than what Reagan did long ago.
No. You cannot sell me the timeliness that makes it more relevant or not.
All right, Joe Ferretti.
Well, look, it's the internet warriors who have this fever dream that showing that the pardons were the result of auto pen signatures makes them legally invalid and frees up the Trump administration to go prosecute a bunch of Bidens. That's not going to happen. And I don't, Mike, you raised an interesting point. Okay, was the use of the auto pen necessary because Biden couldn't sign his own name? I don't know about that, but I do know that presidents have used the auto pen for a long time. They can't possibly sign everything that they need to sign. Now, whether there was critical legislation or executive orders that Biden didn't see or didn't understand, so somebody put an auto pen to it, if evidence comes out about that, then okay, let's have that discussion. But I don't see just in general use of an auto pen as evidence of incapacity on the part of President Biden. I just don't draw that connection yet.
Mr. Gilstrap.
Joe, all respect, I think you answered the wrong question. The use of the auto pen, yeah, obviously. A Boy Scout gets his Eagle badge and gets a notice from the President of the United States. Yeah, great, auto pen. We don't expect the President to sign that. When you're pardoning individuals, or you're pardoning your son, you're pardoning anybody, a presidential pardon is a big deal. And the presumption is that the president has at least been briefed personally on the merits of this pardon. And according to reports in various books, that wasn't done. That there were categorical pardons. I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm not taking a position on that. I don't know. Are there legal ramifications to that? If someone signs a document, if it comes out, I'm not suggesting that it does. The question is about legal ramifications. If it comes out that the auto pen was used to sign something without the express permission of the President of the United States, then I would suggest that that's a crime. It's like writing a check that I haven't, signing a check on my behalf that I haven't approved. I'm going to suggest, I think that what happened is towards the end of his presidency, if nothing else, I go grant full benefit of the doubt here. I'm going to guess that toward the end of his presidency, his signature was getting a little shaky, and it was, as will happen with people, and it was not the signature that he wanted to have on official documents. So he ordered the auto pen. That's what I am going to guess. granting full benefit of the doubt. But if it turns out that the staff was making executive decisions that belong to the president, then there should be prosecutions.
In regards to pardons, that would be a very serious crime.
A huge crime.
Mr. Schultz.
Yeah, well, first of all, luckily Trump did not have an auto pen available to
Good
sign
God.
the Epstein birthday card in 2003. So we know he wrote that one, right?
You opened the door. John.
I did not.
No, Donald Trump opened that door in 2003. Sorry. Anyway, the point here is obviously it is an abuse of power if without following whatever the rules are for the auto pen, which I presume are there must be a direct order. Something tells me there is a direct written order from Biden signed by him that says to do this. But in any event, there will be people who say, I was there and heard him tell them to use the auto pen to sign these pardons. I don't know how you're going to get around that. If he had no idea that it was even going on, yeah, that's a bit concerning. But the same could also be true of Donald Trump today on any number of issues that I don't hear anyone talking about.
Don't forget George Bush.
Well, he was just not very smart to begin with. We didn't really worry that he was becoming demented. So
How about Reagan?
that was a different deal.
How about Reagan and Nixon?
Oh, Reagan definitely. When Nixon didn't make it to the end, if you'll recall, he had to go.
You're not helping.
And that
John.
Eisenhower.
You're not helping, John.
In any event, I do believe that there needs to be a review of this. On the other hand, I'm not so sure there hasn't already been a review of all of it. I'm not going to believe anything the Trumpers say about Joe Biden. Sorry. There's been too many lies already about that and 100 other topics. So their credibility, with me at least, is very low.
Not a high bar.
Mike, this comes back to you.
Well, I'm not lying when I say that apparently Biden was the best choice they had in 2020, and that's really scary given what we have now found out about how he operated as president.
What's really scary
We'll
is
see.
that Kamala was the best choice they had in 2024.
Well, they did not have they did not go through the choice selection in 2024.
Because they knew.
No. They said they did not have enough time for a primary.
We're just about out of time, and before that happens, in the course of our Thursday proposed ideas, she was alluded to earlier today, the name Home Run Karen came up in discussion. For those of you not familiar with Home Run Karen, Mr. Gilstrap.
At a baseball game,
And you have 90 seconds.
it was a Phillies game, I think.
Yes.
Right. So the home run was hit and kind of bounced in the stands, and a guy ran to pick up the ball for his kid. There's this lady that said it was in her section and it should belong to her. The guy picked it up, took his kid, and this lady went and screamed at him, and apparently really screamed at him. I've seen the video. So he just kind of said, here, take it. You're a crazy lady. And her face, it's very clear, and then she went and engaged with digital communication with the entire crowd. This woman is famous now for notorious, infamous. And my question to the crowd is it worth it for that moment to be that famous? And
The flip side is worth it to the fellow that gave the ball to her. They got season tickets to the World.
Yeah.
They got tickets to the World Series. So yeah,
Yeah, so the guy,
Is that going to depend on whether the Phillies
they get there.
there?
You're right, but they're getting other benefits as well.
the
There.
guy was about 10 seats away. The ball was pretty much under her seat.
Yeah.
She's older and not as limber, you would make the assumption.
always let the kid have the ball.
So he raced over, grabbed the ball, gave it to his son about 10 seats away. She came and confronted him face to face. He gave her the ball, and she took it back to her grandson, I presume. And then the internet got a hold of that, and then she became one of the most hated people on the earth in about
And a
2
meme,
seconds.
a huge meme.
Final thoughts, 8 seconds apiece next. Final thoughts, 8 seconds apiece. Joe Ferretti, go.
Well, it's inevitable, but Senator Jim Justice and Governor Morrissey are at each other, and it's going to be an interesting fight.
Larry Schultz.
Have a good weekend. Let's hope for some rain. It's kind of dry out there.
Bill Stubblefield.
Will Coach Rod try harder this time than he did last time to win the backyard brawl?
Mr. Carl.
They need to, because to make up for that loss to Ohio.
Mr. Gilstrap.
Never take anything from a child when the camera is watching.
You know, Height would be so jealous. We had 22 seconds by the time we got to go. Height never gets that much time.
Yeah.
Last week I had
shows coming up next. This is Talk
It's
Radio,
Height.
WRNR Martinsburg and TV 10. Have a great weekend. We'll talk again in 70 short hours.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.